Bu fiil İngilizce'de eklemek veya ilave etmek anlamında kullanılır. Bir şeye başka bir şey katmak, listeye yeni bir öge eklemek ya da bir miktar artırmak gibi durumlarda tercih edilir. Örneğin,
To add sugar to tea.
çaya şeker eklemek.
She added more details to her story.
Hikayesine daha fazla ayrıntı ekledi.
Can you add me to the list?
Beni listeye ekleyebilir misin? Çaya şeker eklemez.
She doesn't add sugar to tea. She doesn't add sugar to tea.
Şu anda çaya şeker eklemiyor.
She isn't adding sugar to tea right now. She isn't adding sugar to tea right now.
Çaya hiç şeker eklemedi.
She hasn't added sugar to tea. She hasn't added sugar to tea.
Bir süredir çaya şeker eklemiyor.
She hasn't been adding sugar to tea for a while. She hasn't been adding sugar to tea for a while.
Dün çaya şeker eklemedi.
She didn't add sugar to tea yesterday. She didn't add sugar to tea yesterday.
Ben geldiğimde çaya şeker eklemiyordu.
She wasn't adding sugar to tea when I arrived. She wasn't adding sugar to tea when I arrived.
O sormadan önce çaya şeker eklememişti.
She hadn't added sugar to tea before he asked. She hadn't added sugar to tea before he asked.
O günden önce yıllardır çaya şeker eklemiyordu.
She hadn't been adding sugar to tea for years before that day. She hadn't been adding sugar to tea for years before that day.
Yarın çaya şeker eklemeyecek.
She won't add sugar to tea tomorrow. She won't add sugar to tea tomorrow.
Yarın bu saatte çaya şeker eklemiyor olacak.
She won't be adding sugar to tea at this time tomorrow. She won't be adding sugar to tea at this time tomorrow.
Sen geldiğinde çaya şeker eklememiş olacak.
She won't have added sugar to tea by the time you come. She won't have added sugar to tea by the time you come.
O geldiğinde uzun zamandır çaya şeker eklemiyor olacak.
She won't have been adding sugar to tea for long by the time he arrives. She won't have been adding sugar to tea for long by the time he arrives. Emma's tea habit. Emma is a simple person with a simple habit. She doesn't add sugar to tea. This is her routine, and she has been following it for a long time. Today, Emma's friends came over for tea. As always, Emma prepared the tea without sugar. She isn't adding sugar to tea right now, one of her friends whispered, looking amused. Her friend Mia laughed and said, "She hasn't added sugar to tea since I've known her." One friend, Jack, remembered, "She didn't add sugar to tea yesterday either." Emma just smiled at their comments. For her, tea was best without any sweetness. A few years ago, Emma's family asked her to try sugar in her tea, just to see if she liked it. But she wasn't adding sugar to tea when they offered. "She wasn't adding sugar to tea when I arrived that day," her mother said. Emma simply preferred it plain. Even before they had asked, she hadn't added sugar to tea for years. "Emma, will you add sugar to your tea tomorrow?" her friend Lily asked playfully. Emma laughed and shook her head. "No, I won't add sugar to tea tomorrow," she replied with a smile. "And at this time tomorrow, I won't be adding sugar to tea either." Her friends continued to tease her, but they knew it was all in good fun. By the time they finished their visit, One thing was clear. Emma wouldn't have added sugar to tea, even if they had insisted. It was her habit and her taste. As her friends left, Emma waved goodbye, knowing that by the time they visited again, she wouldn't have been adding sugar to tea for long. Emma's friends laughed and said, "That's just Emma. No sugar for her, no matter what."